That is so strange.
Okay, hello, welcome to episode 421 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Ed Lamb, your good pal, Sean Orford. You right, Sean?
I am very good. How are you?
Yeah, all right, really. Yeah. The sun's shining again, and
yeah,
all's well, really. Yeah, kids are fine, and things are getting quite interesting in the UK. Well, they have been for a while, but managing to get through it okay. We're talking about Metta today, aren't we? We'll come on to that in a bit. But what's going on in your life, Sean, with that's triggered this one?
What's going on in my life? Catching up on my life. I'm back to running. So I'm running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which is good. That's great. And we need to give a shout out to Sandra, because Sandra she was 70 on Monday. And she had a party, outside, all socially distanced, correct?
Yep.
In the garden, which was nice, and the weather was lovely. And it was just nice to be with people again and to have that kind of social experience. That was good. But that does feed a bit into my reasons for bringing up the Metta thing, which is, and it was the Matt Hancock bit. And whatever you think of Matt Hancock, it's like everybody was being so amazingly nasty. Not everybody there, but I mean, some people there, and other people that I've spoken to since then, since the Matt Hancock thing, or there was Nadia Sawala having a rant, that kind of stuff. And it's like, I get the fact that the guy's an idiot, but it's hard at the moment to find kindness. And it's like kindness will solve so many of our problems, and we don't do it. So that was kind of what got me there. So what have you been up to?
Well, usual stuff for me. Yeah, kids drop off and all that kind of stuff, and buzzing around on my bike, the usual. But yeah, the Hancock stuff, we've given this government and then our current crop of government ministers and politicians, both barrels, and over the years, especially post Brexit and all that stuff, and that's kind of. But I was watching the photos, and I saw the photo of what he did and got busted doing in the video. So, I'm conscious that adultery is like serious stuff, man, and the family stuff they'll be going through is horrendous. For his wife, probably. We don't know the full story, blah blah blah. But I also did feel a little bit of sympathy, and I wonder where that came from. Is that just the kindness within me? Because workplace relationships are not a new thing by any stretch. I'm sure you've got countless stories. I work on my own, so I kind of not really. I've never been tempted in that way. Well, not really, but you spend a lot of time with someone, especially in a situation like we all have in the last year, where if you are working with someone, it's quite intense and you kind of locked down together. So yeah, I just felt, I don't know, watching that video, man. I mean, as much of a chump as he is, I did feel a little bit of sympathy as to kind of what he was going through and what his family now has to go through, etc., etc. So it's just horrible all around, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the things is that if life is about growing and developing and facing things, then yes, he does have to grow and face a few things, and I think that's going to be hard for him. Hopefully he has the fortitude to do it and to learn and to grow and be different as a person, but then that's probably true for the lady who has been, we assume, having the affair with, and as we say, I don't know what's been going on in his family. I don't know, whatever that is, and I guess that from her point of view, if the way that she found out about things was on the front page of the media, then that must be awful. And I don't know whether she knew anything before. We know nothing, do we? But it's so easy to make assumptions and write people off and do all kinds of stuff. And it's a bit like when people go to prison. Do we send them to prison so they should be tortured and beaten and suffer and have a terrible time? Or should prison be about rehabilitation? At the moment, it's probably about neither. People aren't being rehabilitated, or very few are. And people aren't being sort of beaten and doing heavy labor. So it's like it's probably neither of those things. But it's like, should it be? Should it be that what we see as punishment should be something to help people grow and be different and change? Yeah, and then I can hear there's a whole load of people that would be screaming, yeah, but people don't change and leopards can't change their spots and you can't just use an old dog being tricked and all that kind of stuff. And that's true sometimes, that's true. Yeah, but most people in a positive environment will change. They may need a little bit of benevolent pressure to do that, but it's like it can happen. You know?
Yeah.
You know, so why do we spend so much time being so horrible to people? And I don't know the truth about the Sun newspaper because I don't read it, but people tell me that the Sun newspaper is a scurrilous, awful thing because all it does is send ferrets out to go and find awful things about people and then make them public. You know? And my understanding is that the Sun newspaper is virtually banned in Liverpool, that people won't buy it because of what they did about Hillsborough, the coverage of Hillsborough.
Yep.
You know, but I guess with some newspapers does seem to be a carrying on from a business point of view. And does that mean that kind of bad news is good news? And to say awful things about people and to do bad things about people is good for them because it sells their newspapers.
It does,
You know?
yeah. So we've spoken about that before. We need to take responsibility for kind of creating that demand. For it in the first place.
We as the public buy the newspaper, don't we? And like I say, I know that there was a time when you couldn't get a copy of the Sun in Liverpool because people wouldn't stock it. I don't know whether that's still true.
I think it is. I think it is pretty much. Yeah. You do well to find a copy in independent news agents at least. But yeah, something about forgiveness there, isn't there? Which we have talked about in the past, but yeah, I'm flipping heck. We won't go into the Sun and Hillsborough and all that shit. That's a
massive thing.
Topic.
Yeah.
And quite a fascinating one actually, but obviously, yeah.
But the bottom line is kindness. Yeah. So this is based around the blog this week is based around that whole idea of metta. And metta, to me, other people might define it differently, but it's like when you've done a really good meditation, you might spend 40 minutes or an hour doing a really good meditation. At the end of it, you feel amazingly good. It's a lovely feeling. And the idea of metta is that you share that lovely goodness and feeling because you've just been kind of connecting with everything, that you share that energy with the world. Now, the guy that invented transcendental meditation, if he invented it, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, reckoned that if you could get 6 million people meditating at the same time and that they all use that metta positively, that you could change the course of human destiny. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know the reality of that, and I don't know how he worked out his figures, but I know that if we did share energy positively with each other, then the world would be different. And it does come down to like, it's learning to be kind, and we're not good at being kind.
No, and I mean, at the start of your blog post, you talk about how we kind of missed National Kindness Week or something like that. That was in February, I think.
Yeah.
And I wonder about those because everything's got its own kind of week or day at the moment. And, I see it in kind of transport campaigning because we have Bike to Work Week and all that kind of stuff. But when you do that and you have a kindness day or a week, does it kind of, is it sending a message that you don't have to be kind all year round or that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I say in here is about, I'm left wondering why we can't have a loving kindness year or even a loving kindness life. It doesn't have to be a week. And yeah, okay, there's going to be a week in 2022 when we all focus on that idea, but why can't we do it all the time? And why am I not thinking what can I do for my country rather than thinking what can my country do for me? It's like participating and being in it, isn't it? So does that mean if we're not going to go with the kindness thing, do we need to get into things like anarchy and revolution and all that kind of stuff? And let's go and burn the barricades and, it's a crazy place to be. And I think that the whole COVID thing is bringing out all these extremes of behavior. You are seeing extraordinary examples of kindness. And then at the same time, you're seeing sort of despicable nasty things going on as well.
Yeah. I mean, Metta, by the way, Metta is spelled with 2 T's, so I haven't heard of this practice or this idea before. I see Metta with 1 T written quite a lot because it's in the world of like web development. You have when you have metadata like hidden behind kind of websites hidden away, but Metta with 2 T's is something I hadn't heard. So I did do a little bit of looking up, and there's a link to a website that you can read it. But what is metta meditation for you? I've got a couple of little descriptions here, but what is it for you, Sean, and where's it come from?
Well, and when you look at the schools of Buddhism, to me, in my understanding, there were basically 2 schools. There were the people that believed that if you sat in a temple and you all meditated together and you built this very powerful energy, that energy itself was having an effect on the universal energy. It was doing that. And then there were the other group of Buddhists who believed that you had to go out and do it at the coalface. You had to go out and give that energy out, hand to hand kind of thing. So you have this kind of internalized Buddhism and this externalized Buddhism. And I get that there's a balance between the 2. And certainly if you're out on the front line doing the work, as most of the NHS staff have been, if you're going to replenish the energy inside yourself, is it better to go and sit down and meditate or open a bottle of wine, which is the favorite relaxant at the end of the day. But that idea that can I affect you positively? Now we know from work that we've done before that if you look at the intention experiment and the website around that, and they're all quantum physicists, they reckon that they can measure the energy leaving one person and arriving at another, that they can measure it at a quantum level and they can see it. So they're saying that things like absent healing and prayer and positive thought do actually work. Now, I don't know whether their research revealed the other way around, which is like voodoo, is like, can you send negative energy out to people? And have a negative effect.
Yeah.
But you certainly know the difference between walking into a situation that feels really positive and warm, as opposed to walking into a situation that feels negative. And you get that with a house. If you're going to buy a house, does it feel good? Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah. I was just chatting to my kids about that the other day because we've just doing. Sometimes you play the game of looking on Rightmove of what's going in your local area, and or maybe dreaming of some big mansions down the road in Caldy. Yeah. So we was kind of the kids were asking what we were doing, and they got worried actually because they like where we live. So we don't want to move. We're not going to move. But we were talking about moving house and about how it's why houses are priced differently, and we actually went for a walk on Saturday morning past one of the houses that's for sale just to kind of see where it was. We're not moving house, but just to kind of because we were heading that way anyway. And then we were talking to Will about, you need to go and view a house, not because photos aren't enough. You have to go and feel it, and kind of get the feel for the noise, is for traffic and kind of the feeling you get when you walk into it, whether it's good or bad. And he was interested as to, I assume he understands because I remember he likes going to his grandparents' houses, and I remember as a kid loving going to my grandparents in Newcastle and in Frodsham where they both live, just because there's something about going to your grandparents' house. So it's like there's a different feeling and a different smell and something about it, isn't there?
Yeah,
that you pick up.
You just reminded me of going into Brynestyn, which is a children's home in Wales, which when the Northwest Children's Home Inquiry was on. And there'd been a lot of abuse and paedophile rings and stuff around, particularly Brynestyn. And when you went into the building, because it was used as an education centre generally, when I went in there to do stuff, it wasn't a children's home anymore. But there was one part of the building that if you went in there, the hair stood up on the back of your neck. It felt absolutely awful, and people wouldn't go down there.
Wow.
And that was like energy that was in the building, And I think when we start to talk about the energy that we have with other people, it's a bit like you can go and spend time with one person and you might be talking about the price of frozen chips, but you come away feeling really good because their energy is good and it kind of lifts your energy. Yeah. Or you can go and be with someone else and they're like a vampire and they suck your energy out and you go away feeling like a husk afterwards, you know. And I think that kind of energy that exists in the world, bioenergy, in some systems they call it prana or chi or ki, that kind of stuff. But it is, in science, it's bioenergy. It's the energy around things. And that's what Metta's getting at, is that if you pump up your energy, can you share it with others? And if we all did that, so like the transcendental meditation idea, if 6 million people did that, the energy would be so powerful that you could change the whole direction of humanity. You know?
So yeah, you've written in your blog that Metta is recognizing that all sentient beings, including animals, can feel good or feel bad, and that given the choice, they'll choose the former over the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of go
and that's generally true. We do have some odd people who will go for what they experience as a positive thing, but we'd call it self-harm. Yeah, but for them it makes sense that way. And one of the things, because Metta is a kind of a Buddhist idea, it's where it comes from, that idea about sentient beings, all animals, everything else, means that, which is why Buddhism is essentially vegetarian. You know, you don't eat your fellow animals, kind of thing. Which made me laugh the other day because I went for a run. That was on Monday. I went for a run, and as I turned the corner, and as I ran down the road, I was just going slowly, getting warmed up, and there's a hedgehog in the road, and it didn't bat an eyelid at me. It was trotting along quite fast, and it was up on the pavement. It was like, oh yeah, went by, and then it popped through a hole in the fence, and off it went. And I thought that was just so lovely to be there with this kind of hedgehog going along down the road. Lovely. And I know that some places I've been, the gypsies, and I'm not slagging off gypsies, I'm just saying there was a group of gypsies that were eating the hedgehog.
Right.
They used to call them hedgie pigs, and they used to wrap them in clay so that the spines would stick to the clay, so that when they were cooked in the oven, they could crack the clay open and then eat the hedgehog.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people will be, the instant is like, yeah, that's horrible, that's disgusting. But I mean, if you think about it, eating any animal, and I still do, is equally as weird and crazy and horrible in many ways, isn't it? So
that's the whole thing about when they suddenly found that there was horsemen in what people thought was camels, and people were up in arms. And I'm thinking, it's a body that's been minced up. You know, does it matter whether it was a cow or a pig or a horse?
I know. I mean, I mean, yeah. I went to a friend's house to watch some football and had a barbecue on the weekend, Sunday. And I'm not vegetarian, but I don't eat red meat and haven't for 3 or 4 years, really. Mainly kind of like the environmental side and the kind of carbon footprint of it. So it's quite a kind of mathematical thing rather than empathy towards animals, which I need to work on actually. And but he was serving, or he bought a load of beef burgers, Wagyu beef burgers that it was the first thing he showed me. Like, he was like so excited to have one. And so I didn't say, because obviously up to the point when a good vegetarian or environmentalist will kind of throw their arms up. And, I've had those conversations all the time. I have them all the time. But to kind of, as an act of kindness and empathy, I decided just to kind of let it go and just let him enjoy the moments and cook this nice burger for me that he'd, been to the shop to get. And, I enjoyed it and it was tasty and all that kind of stuff. And I went left without having the conversation, because sometimes you just got to let things slide, I guess. And that was what I thought, and just enjoy the moment, I guess.
I think that as an act of loving kindness, I think that we have to not become like fascists. You don't need to be a food fascist. And if I went to someone's house and they'd cooked me a chicken meal with great love, I would probably eat it, and I would accept the love that they'd made it with. Yeah. The issue about whether or not they should have, cooked an animal or whatever is in it, sure. But people that eat meat aren't necessarily bad people. They're just people that eat meat.
Yeah.
People aren't nipping down to Sainsbury's thinking, "Ha, I'm going to get a box of dead body here."
Yeah.
They're just doing what they do. I was brought up as a kid eating meat and two veg. That's what we ate.
Same.
And if that's your normal, that's your normal, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
unless something happens to change it.
Exactly. And there are different ways of trying to educate or make people change their ways. And generally, I've learned from transport campaigning stuff, like shouting and pointing at people. Although I do it a little bit on Twitter just for fun and games, just as a bit of just to kind of vent my frustration. But it doesn't work, does it? Shouting at people and kind of having a big go and kind of trying to explain all the maths of things and all the horror of the food industry doesn't really do the trick, does it? Sadly.
No. And in a way, that's what I was feeling about Nadia's rant. And it's like I understand what she was saying, and I didn't disagree with what she was saying, really. But the kind of the venom and the nastiness of it, and that we're talking about energy, and that's not a good energy, because how many other people pick up on that, and then they feel justified in their negativity. And then we're all producing negative endorphins and hormones, and we're all creating stress in our systems and in each other. And it's like, hang on, what point do we stop? And to me, it's a bit like Northern Ireland spent 200 years with the Protestants and the Catholics murdering, killing, torturing, blowing each other up, all kinds of stuff going on. And then something happened that kind of stopped it. Now, we don't know that it's actually stopped, but it's a hell of a lot different now than what it was in what they called the Troubles.
Yeah.
And it's like you can go on forever, generation after generation, being negative. Well, what point do we start to be positive?
Yeah. So you've written Metta is friendliness, consideration, kindness, and generosity, and it's the answer to almost every problem in the world that we face today. Money won't do it, technology won't do it, but Metta will.
Yeah. I mean, and you can have all the technology you want. You can have all the medicine you want. You can have all the clever devices you want. But unless we learn to treat each other positively, all we're doing is creating a hellhole.
Yeah, I know. There's a kind of a transport question that comes up quite a lot online. So we're kind of entering this age. I don't think we will actually, but of self-driving cars. That will shuffle around. You'll just order one, it'll show up and it'll whisk you off to your destination and you won't have to do a thing. And the question within kind of the tech world is, well, what happens if this car is driving along and it's faced with the decision to kill the old person or the young person that's crossing the road, that's having the audacity to walk somewhere?
How dare they?
Yeah. And the question is, from the technology point of view, well, who does the car kill, the old person or the young person? And the kind of the tech fantasists out in San Francisco that I used to be one of and kind of used to hang on their every word, they can't imagine. They're only answering that binary question: shall we kill the young person or the old person? When the answer is, well, how about we just engineer the car to go slow enough so that it can stop in time and kill neither person. And they can't get it into their head because it's not one of the options in the quiz. Well, why don't we just have these cars go slower in areas where people might be walking?
The answer's simple: let it go faster and kill both of them, and then there's less mouths to feed. There you go.
Yeah. So can we build empathy into artificial intelligence? That's a whole other question, I guess, isn't it?
And we don't know that yet, do we? I mean, all the sci-fi stuff says no, you can't. It turns into a nightmare, And is it that the sci-fi machines end up killing human beings in order to keep other human beings safe? So they,
Yeah, I was having a bit of a chat with I went to the office for the first time probably in a while and was chatting about AI with one of the guys I share an office with, and we're talking about all those decisions that a computer will have to make at some point, assuming that we let artificial intelligence loose on in the world. And I'm not sure we'll reach that point really, but Yeah, it's amazing. We could talk for ages about this stuff. But yeah, have you got what's your resource of the week, Sean?
Well, my result of the week is to go to the website, which is organising the international, Random Acts of Kindness Week, which is 2022. So my thing isn't don't wait until February 2022 to be kind. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's work towards it. Maybe there's things that we could do to kind of help that to get up to it. But it's like, what kindness could people do today? What and the thing about kindness doesn't cost anything, and usually doesn't take any time either. But when you go into the shop next time, how about you treat the person behind the counter really kindly, and you care about them, rather than just getting what you want and getting out of the shop.
Yeah, and it's win-win, isn't it? Because they get a little boost and you get one too. So it's
I wonder how often someone goes into their corner shop and actually says to the person behind the counter, "Hi, yeah, how are you doing? How's life going for you? You okay?" As opposed to, "I want that and that and that. Okay, where's my change?" And it's that loving kindness, and I obviously, because of the stuff I do, and certainly the stuff that Ree does, and you see some of the things that people in the health service and the social services are doing. It's amazing what they do, and they get paid very little relatively to do it. But they do amazing things for you and me. If you and I go into A&E, we might complain that we have to wait for a bit of time before we can have an X-ray. But the people that are there are working to trying to get us right. It's kind of loving kindness in action.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everywhere when you start looking for it, isn't it? And it's hopefully quite infectious, but
it's a bit like the news program in the morning. We had Piers Morgan on. Now I couldn't watch Piers Morgan, and the reason I couldn't watch him was because of his energy. It was such a kind of a negative, and but quite often I would agree with the stuff he was saying, but it was so horrible the way that he said it and he did it. Now I understand that their viewing ratings have dropped since he left, because maybe that's what people do want. Maybe they want that kind of aggressive attitude towards things. And people will say, yeah, but you've got to stand up to people like Matt Hancock because they're, this, that, and the other. And it's like, maybe we can stand up to people with kindness. We don't have to stand up to people with negativity. But I'm sure there would be people that will listen to this and go, guy's a nutter, bloody idiot. And that's okay. That's fine, because I can treat them with loving kindness. That's okay.
Indeed. My resource is not really related, but it's kind of meditative, I found. So when I'm working at home, I found this YouTube channel, and there's loads of the like it. It's just a person with an amazing camera and a stabilizer, and he just walks around different parts of Japan, like urban parts, suburban and rural bits, and you just get to go on a really quiet walk with someone walking through a town or a city you haven't experienced in like 4K and HDR and all that. So, but
does that create a feeling of metta for you?
I think it does. Yeah, it's really relaxing, and there's no commentary or anything. It's just kind of life going by. So obviously go for a walk yourself and kind of experience your own environment. But I'm obsessed with Japan. So it's just an amazing way to just drop yourself into another world all of a sudden.
So have you ever been to Japan?
No, never been anywhere near that far, really. So
yeah,
I've been to the States and the West Coast, but no. To go over there, and I want to go there sustainably as well. So I think you can get a train kind of through Russia and to China.
Yeah, you can. I'm just trying to get something off the shelf here.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a lady that I know who teaches Japanese on the Wirral, and cool. These are the 7 Japanese kind of gods, I suppose, right? But the thing, and I haven't checked it out, but I think these relate to the chakras. They're the 7 chakras, I think, that you'd get in the Indian system and the Japanese system. I need to check that out. But if you want to learn Japanese, I've got the person.
Send me an email, man. Yeah, I'd like to have a chat.
They'll teach you, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they have like shrines dotted around the towns and cities as well. I think I assume they're little Buddhist shrines. Just
Yeah, they're going to be Buddhism or Shinto or something.
amazing. But anyway, have a look at the
Yeah.
video and just start exploring and
Yeah.
go for a walk yourself, because it's good for you,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Cool. All right, Sean. I'll catch up with you next week and we'll do lots of
Yes.
more fascinating chit chat, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. And be kind to yourself and to other people.
Well said. All right. Very meta. Cheers,
Okay.
Sean. I'll see you
You
soon,
take
everyone.
care. See ya. Bye.
Bye.